let's go like this. V'amar od, and we say like this furthermore. Kahai diukna, like that image. Ki Zair Anpin nishlam v'naase bebechinas rachamim gemorim. It could be completed like that. Come out parts of Eric Anpin, just like Eric Anpin. Umavar lav hai diukna habi. Ki Zair Anpin lo naase la'olam kamo Eric Anpin. Now we just said lav hai diukna habi. It's not exactly the same. He says kamo Eric Anpin mamish is not really becomes Eric Anpin. Yesh kamishi nuyim bein Zair Anpin le'Eric Anpin. Gon mashi yesh bedikta the Eric Anpin yud gimel tikunim. Ubedikta the Zair Anpin yesh rak teshik tikunim. This 13 verses 9. V'chein yesh havdelim bein Zair Anpin le'Eric Anpin. There are other differences. Be'inyan hametzach v'hainayim v'hachoyte v'chabepekim b'bor la'el, as we explained, is that the nature of the forehead, the nature of the eyes and the nose, the mouth, they're different. V'chatam l'kol zecher b'kuki b'Zair Anpin yesh gam b'bechinas din, because Zair Anpin is not just rachamim, it's also din. Masha ein kain Eric Anpin shuhu rachamim. Gemorim is complete and total rachamim. Elaka ayin hai diyukna, but it's like this image. Elaka gabonahi shalapamim nishlam Zair Anpin. Sometimes their Anpin is completed. V'naasa bebechinas rachamim peshutim. It becomes a very simple rachamim. Kain parts of Eric Anpin similar to Eric Anpin. Behind the kusha Eric Anpin meir bedikna umetzach ve'enahim v'achoytim v'pad Zair Anpin, when it shines on these elements. And he specifically says on the beard, on the forehead, on the eyes, the nose, the mouth. The Zair Anpin. Going on. Give me just 1 second. So he says, Ukumot she is boyer, that we are going to explain this. Zair Anpin b'tzad atzmo, yesh baro begam bechinas din l'tzorach anhagas ha'oila, because there's also a left side on Zair Anpin, which is the side of din, and has to do with how he manages the world. So when is it completed? It becomes a simple rachamim, parts of Eric Anpin. And he's using the word simple to mean that it's not what you call two-sided. It's not din v'rachamim, it's just rachamim. Peshutim, and that's why it's peshutim, parts of Eric Anpin, v'amar, and he says furthermore, Kad is chavran itrin v'kisrin. When you join together, now these are two different words for crowns. The hainu, kashabischavrim b'Zair Anpin ha'ataros v'achsarim. When you add into the crowns, another word for crown. So he says ataros, but the first word, hainu chamamochin the abba v'ima. So he says ataros is the mochin of abba v'ima. When you add that in to Zair Anpin, Kisrin, and then Kisrin, the other word, the Hainocha Spheros of Zair Anpin, those are the Spheros of Zair Anpin himself. Zair Anpin is gather the parts of Shalom, that's when Zair Anpin grows into complete parts of Shal Eser Spheros. Ba'al Yedech is Chavros, the Netzach Hod Yesod, the Ima, so that is the entrance of the Nai of Ima into Zair Anpin, B'Zair Anpin. Kaden ku ish ashlamusa, the kula, that makes him, this is his godless, it makes him complete. Maz nishlam Zair Anpin, b'kol b'chinas Adam, it comes complete, it has all the aspects of man, v'nikra b'shem Adam Shalom, and he's called a complete man. Kadugmas Eric Anpin, like Eric Anpin, hanikra b'shem Adam, who is called Adam. Now this is like coining a set of words here, where he said, my impression of this would have been that Adam always refers to Zair Anpin because it's the gematria of Zair Anpin, but on the of Adam rather. But here he says that actually the man is Eric Anpin. Zair Anpin bebechinas rachamim peshutim, and when that happens, Zair Anpin becomes complete rachamim, simple rachamim, kamo parts of Eric Anpin. V'vor v'lama nikroim Eric Anpin v'Zair Anpin b'shein Adam. So why do they both have this phrase goes with it, or this word? V'amar begin the diyukna the Adam have diyukhan the Elohim v'satoyim this kololubei. That's a good one. That the image of the man, he says, is incorporated in the upper and the lower world. I gotta know. Let's see what he means. Elohim v'tatoyim the iskalilubei that are included in him. So he says ki tzoros parts of Adam, Hainu Tzuras, parts of Shalom, that the form of the body Shekol Partzufim Al Yoniv V'Tachnon Nechlalambo, and in that one form, all of the rest of it's like a template. All of the rest of the Partzufim are included in that template. Begin to hide the Yuknan Khalil Elohim V'Satoyim, and since it concludes all Partzufim, Iskin Atika Kadisha Tikunoi V'Tikun de Zair Anpin, so that as I'm not sure what this means, so we'll get a translation that it's set up. The Tika Kadisha sets up V'Tikunoi V'Tikun de Zair Anpin also is his, and also, so to speak, the Tikunim of Zair Anpin behind the Yukun V'Tikuna in the same image, in the same form, which he called Adam. I don't know. I'm assuming that means like Rosh Toch Sofa. Let's see what the Pirush says. Levisha Tzuras parts of Adam Kola Besocha as Kola Partzufim Ba'yaniv V'Tachtoinim. It has within it. Here he's talking about Eric Anpin. Lekach Tikun Hiskin Eric Anpin and Nikra Tika Kadisha. So now we're talking about the Tikun of Eric Anpin, also known as the Tika Kadisha. As Tikuni Atzmo, he is able to establish his own Tikun, which is the Smantas, the light. I call it the light transfer system, or something like that. As Tikuni Atzmo, as Tikuni Zair Anpin, and he also does the Tikunim Zair Anpin. Bezer Hatzura, and that meaning that in that form, in that formation that he's been talking about, Bezer Hatzura v'Chatikun HaNikra Adam. Behind Luki Lechein, so therefore we see like this. Eric Anpin, Mislavish Atzma B'Zol called Partsufi Atzilus. He's actually, now he's saying, like all of the spheros of Atzilus are Partsufim. They're Partsufim too. So he said that, and Panimi to all of them is Eric Anpin. Whether we're talking about the upper Partsufim or the lower ones. Parts of Adam Shalom, because what we're talking about is that Eric Anpin is in the form of a complete man. Kamo Kain Zair Anpin, B'Shah Shenishlam B'Kol Mochim. So therefore, when Zair Anpin, with that relationship of the Nai of Ima, he becomes a complete man. But B'Shah Shenishlam, when he comes complete, Azai Hu Malvish Al Kol Partsufi Atzilus. So then it covers over all the Partsufim of Atzilus. Let me read this again. I got a little bit off. He says, Asher Zehu Tzuras Partsuf Adam Shalom. That's when Zair Anpin is in that condition. Kamo Kain Zair Anpin. So therefore now Zair Anpin. B'Shasha Nishlam B'Kol Mochim. So now he's complete also. He's a complete man. As whom Malvish, then Zair Anpin, he clothes I'll call Partsufi Atzilus. Now here's a case where I get confused by the language, because he says he's clothing on all the parts of Atzilus. If he said he was clothing in all the parts of Atzilus, it would make better sense. But I guess what he means to say, it surrounds it. That's what it surrounds it. Looking in that way, it's kitzon to them. So of all the other parts of Atzilus, V'oz gamku nikra b'shem Adam, and when that happens, it also has the name Adam. Kamo parts of Eric Anpin, more just like Eric Anpin, as we have stated. So now he says, V'itema. One moment, please. So V'itema. So if you say like this, Ma ben chai lahai, what's the difference? Well, I'm assuming that he means when Zair Anpin is complete. V'im toma ma hefresh yesh ben parts of Eric Anpin, the parts of Zair Anpin. I assume he means at the time of completion of Zair Anpin. Shahare nizbar sheshnechem nisakta b'tzuras parts of Adam. So both of them have the same tzura. They both are like the parts of Adam, a kolol eskol chatziluk amor, which has within it all of Atzilus. Umeshiv kuluku baskala chada. Actually, they're all balanced the same way. Now let's see what he means by they have the same weight. Ki ha'emesu, the truth is, she'erik anpin v'zer anpin, mitzad atzmusam shavim heim b'mishgal echad. They actually have the same weight, or the same quality. So what does he mean? B'bechinas rachamim gemurim. That is, that in that state, they are both rachamim gemurim. Ki Eric Anpin meir mislavish b'zer anpin is Eric Anpin is inside of Zair Anpin. V'kol heim echad Ve'ein beinechem shum shinui ka'amar la'el. They actually are alike. He said, what are the words? He said, v'hakol hem echad. Everything is oneness then, which I guess is a goal. So he says, at any rate, echad ve'ein beinechem shum shinui ka'amar la'el. Avachabekan is parshan archoi. But there are times. First, the language in the Zohar is aval mekan. From here is parshu archo. The paths separate. So he says here, the translation aval lepamim mitzad halavushim v'chasfiros. When you're looking at the clothing and the spheros, shall parts of Zair Anpin, nifradim mischalkim, darke parts of Zair Anpin. So therefore, there's going to be a separation, a division in the different paths of Zair Anpin, amid parts of Erik Anpin, separate and different from the paths of Erik Anpin. Vein Erik Anpin Meir Mislavish B'Zair Anpin, and at that time, Erik Anpin is not clothed in Zair Anpin. Now, I understand what he means, but I would think that since he said previously that Erik Anpin is really panimi to all of the partsufim that exist, this Adam. But let me just read it back again. Sometimes, so I'm really always thrown by the word levushim, but he taught how it is that one partsuf covers another partsuf. Maybe that's an answer. Shall parts of Zair Anpin, that there are changes over there. Nifradim and mischalkim, it becomes separated and split off the darker parts of Zair Anpin with parts of Erik Anpin. Vein Erik Anpin Meir Mislavish B'Zair Anpin. So that's the phrase that's got me, is that and Erik Anpin is not clothed inside of Zair Anpin. And when that happens, then you find that Zair Anpin is going to be nothing but din. And when it's needed, that's what the actions of din will be in place. Nitzrach, and sometimes that the world, in order to continue, has to have these dinim. Now, what is sheniyan? What does that mean? Amna rak b'tzidenu, all looking from our position. Who call a shinu hazer bebein partsufi Erik Anpin, the parts of Zair Anpin. Only from the way that we look at it, there's a difference. Now, what does that mean? It has to do with how we behave. That is what causes the spheros and Zair Anpin to change, so that they should be working on din. Below Yislav Erik Anpin, and then the lights of Erik Anpin are not shining into it. He says what? V'ya'ira, they're not shining, ha'aras, the radiance of Erik Anpin. He said previously, below Yislavshu. Once again, he says it sounds like that Zair Anpin is disconnected from Erik Anpin. Avah the Zair Anpin, mitzadatz muso, who rachamim gemurim, but Zair Anpin by himself, just look at Zair Anpin by himself, he's also rachamim gemurim, Erik Anpin, below shum shinoi klalka omor, that by himself. In other words, if we're not behaving badly, he's going to be rachamim. If we weren't sinning, hoya parts of Zair Anpin, bebechinas rachamim gemurim, Erik Anpin, then everything would be great. Rebbe Shimon comes and says like this: V'razim ilan lo is masarach babar l'mechatste chakla kedisha. Wow, let's find this out. What does that mean? V'sodos elo nimser rak la'elo hachamim. So these particular secrets are only given over to those chosamisha kotrim umavarim esekutzim, who are busy cutting off the thorns and the thistles. Arim as a kutzim of hamazikim, which cause damaging thorns. Min hasada hakodesh, from the holy field. What is the holy field? Shehir hashchina hakadusha. In other words, that those who are involved in what does he mean? He's in removing the dinim from the shechina. Kolomer she'oskim v'lomdim b'teres hasod. That is those of us who are zeicha to learn Torah hasod. Vayidei kach, and through this limud, where we are, kotrim umava'arim as unikas aklipos, this cuts off, this removes the sucking power of the klipos, hanekroim kutzim, which here we're using the word thorns for that, min hashchina, taking the thorns away from the shchina because the shchina is exposed, and working to remove them. Because these secrets are incredibly deep. That says, so the Hashem the Re'av, that the secrets of Hashem are people who fear him. Overisa Lahodiam, and his bris, his covenant, to make them known. Pirush. He said, Hasod habenimi shel Shem Havaya. Let's talk about the inner secret of the name Yud Kei Vav Kei, Shuhu Zair Anpin. That is, in fact, Zair Anpin, the hide sod, his lavshus Erik Anpin, Zair Anpin. This name, Yud Kei Vav Kei, I think that's what he means, is really the secret of how it is that Erik Anpin is mislavish inside of Zair Anpin, Ena misgala ela liyari Hashem. So that path between those two things is only revealed by people who are God-fearing. So he says, V'omar ksiv, and it says like this, Ki besod yitziras Adam, so the secret of the formation of a man, a elyon, cause of, this is, we were talking about the upper man, we were saying here that previously it was Erik Anpin. He said, let's hear, hine milas v'yetzer, he has the word yetzer has a double yud in it. Cause of kam b'shnei yudin. Which basically says that's what it says. So why is it written when it turns to man that it has two yudin in it? Like a Moshe Kosav l'cholon, as we're going to see in the Pasuk v'yitziras hachayus v'yetzer chavaya elokim min ha'adama kol chayosada. So there you see the same word, the same general meaning, but it only has two yuds in it. One yud. So Ella. But so he says like this, Ha-pasuk romez kan, ki ba'adam ha'amor kolul shtei yitziros, that the man that we're talking about has two different natures to him, two different formations within him. Shehem sod shnei ha-partzufim, Erik Anpin, v'zer Anpin, which is the secret of these two partzufim. Erik Anpin, Zer Anpin, kamo sheyizbar, as we are getting into this now and explaining it. So how is it, in fact, that these two partsufim actually wind up going together? So what we're doing here is we're completing one tikkun inside of the other. What does that mean? That's what he did. He made a tikkun inside of a tikkun. What does that mean? Kolomar shehilbish parts of Zair Anpin al parts of Erik Anpin. Here's the al. So he says that this is where we see that the parts of Zair Anpin is clothing over the parts of Erik Anpin. So that's one way of looking at it, and that's certainly the drawing that we always have. He says, so here's some words that I'm not familiar with. He says, Tavrako, the gushpanka, I think is a ring. So this word tabarka apparently means a signet ring. So that you have sealed it with into wax. Because the form, he says, that is fixed on the seal. Mitztayer, here's a double yud, I don't know, but let's see, v'nitztayer v'nachtam b'shava, it is formed and it's sealed in wax, kadug maso mamish, which is very similar to our case, and let's see what he means. Now we're talking about these two partsufim, that are closed one inside of the other. Once again, we're saying that Erik Anpin is penimi to Zair Anpin. Nitztayer parts of Zair Anpin. So this part forms the parts of the Zair Anpin, Katsuras Adam, into the form of a man, Kadugmas Tsuras, parts of Adam, the Erik Anpin, and it has the same form as the parts of the Adam that you find in Erik Anpin. In other words, we used to use the phrase Rosh Tok Sof. It has a head, a body, and legs. So he said, parts of Erik Anpin, Hamislavish Besok, parts of Zair Anpin, that close itself inside of the parts of the Zair Anpin. Mitzayer, as partsufi Zair Anpin, it actually forms up the parts of Zair Anpin, lihiyos kedugma, more to look like it. All right. So we just got that Eric Anpin comes inside of Zair Anpin, and as a result, it forms him up to look just like Eric Anpin. So v'hikdim v'amashashtei yudin. So first we started talking about these two yudin, shall milas v'yetzer. Now what does this mean? It's a romance. It's a reference. L'shnei hapartzufim hamishlavshim zeh b'soch zeh. That you have two partzufim, and the one is clothed inside the other. Below bira dayam mi heim elu shnei partzufim. But at that point, we're not really explained what are these two partzufim. V'ketzad heim muramazim b'pasuk. So how it is actually that they are referenced in this pasuk. V'ata choizer b'vayra al kol zer b'pratus. Now we'll come back and we're going to talk about it in detail. So it says v'dahu v'yitzer. So this is the meaning of this double yud in v'yitzer. Ki hinezeh sha'amach b'pasuk v'yitzer b'shtei yudin. So when he uses it like that, yesh l'shul trin yudin lama. So you have the obvious question as why do you need two? Lama kosav kam milas v'yetzer b'shnei yudin, below kosav v'yetzer b'yud achas, and not just one yud. Kamosha kosav b'yetziris hachayas v'yetzer, like we said, for example, when he made the animals, that he used only one yud. Ela ha'teshuva l'kachi. So, but the tshuva is really this: Rosa the Hatika Kadisha v'Rosa the Zair Anpin. It has to do with the secrets of these two partzufim. He said, because these two Yudin shall v'yetzer romazin the sov parts of Eric Anpin hanikra atika kadisha. So that's Eric Anpin. But the sov parts of Zair Anpin, and also the secret of Zair Anpin. Ki ma'asha amba v'yetzer havaya elokim es adam. So we have these two words. So let's say, look at it again. He says when the havaya. Also, it's not just a Havaya, it's a Havaya Elokim, two languages, two words for Hashem. So when that quality called Havaya Elokim creates the man, ain't a kavana kipshuto, so it's not simple idea, Shehavaya Elokim hu hamatzo sheyatzer adam, that just wants to say that we were talking about the force that's coming through the ma'atzel to form up these people. It is, in fact, that this concept of Havaya Elokim is created by the Matzah. Shehem Shnecha Partzufim Elu. This is our two Partzufim, Eric Anpin and Zair Anpin. Hanikroim Havaya Elokim. Now those two Partzufim have these two words attached to them. It's not one concept called Havaya Elokim. It's actually referring to the two Partzufim of Eric Anpin and Zair Anpin. Ki Eric Anpin nikra Havaya, v'Zair Anpin nikra Elokim. The Orech Eric Anpin. Now, we know this. Normally we say that Zair Anpin is called Yud Kei Vav Kei. So over here it's called Elokim because it really says in relationship to Eric Anpin, it's din. Of a milas, I guess I would say that it's Elokim. Of a milas v'yetzer, Baha Pasa the Rama. So what do we get out of this double Yud? He says it coming to give us a reference. Al Hasoda Benimi shall Eilach of Shnei Partzufim, the interior secret of these Partzufim, besod Al Bashasam Zeh besod Leh, in the fact they are clothed one inside of the other. Avavar the Fizah Seder HaPasuk. Now we understand the reference of the Pasuk. Ki Techila Amr HaPasuk V'Yitzar. First it says that with a double Yud, V'yesh L'Shol Matzar. What's it forming up? Malchut Soda Yitzira Chumeshiv. What are we talking about when we say they're forming? Tsar Tsura Begod Tsura. This is what it means. It means that a formation is formed out of another formation. Tsur inside of another Tsura. Shetzad Tsura Besok Tsura. That Shetzar, he formed Tsura Besok Tsura, one form inside of the next. Shehem Shnei Partzufim Shemislavshin B'Sebesok Zad. These are two Partzufim that are clothed one inside of the other. V'adaim Yesh L'Shul, but we have also still this question. U'Malchut Surah Begod Surah. What does it mean that you have a form inside of a form? Miheim Eilach Shnei Tzura. So who are these two forms? U'Partzufim Shenit Stairu Surah B'Sok Surah, that are formed like this, that in fact that Zair Anpin is formed with a Tzura inside of him that makes him look like an Adam. So therefore it comes along and it says this, Train Shemahim. There are actually two names. Shem Shnei Partsufim, Erik Anpin, Zair Anpin. These two Partsufim, Nikroim B'Shnei Shemus, V'Vaya Elokim, and as a result, they're called by these two names, V'Vaya Elokim. Ki Erik Anpin Nikra V'Vaya, Zair Anpin Nikra Elokim LeErik Anpin. So he keeps saying that. We have to understand that Erik Anpin, Elokim is Lashon Din. So relative to Erik Anpin, then we say that Zair Anpin is Elokim. The Iskare, so he says they're called Shem Malech Hashayim Avayim Elokim, that when you put this complete name together, and you call it Avaya and Elokim, but Bechilis is Lavshus, parts of Erik Anpin, Besok parts of Zair Anpin. When we talk about this, is Lavshus. Heim Nekroim Yachad Avaya Elokim. So now the situation, as you would, if it was possible to look at this, that you would be able to see that Havaya Elokim are together in the episode Shem Male, and it's the secret of a complete name, a filled name. The fee she'az mis Male Zair Anpin, because then Zair Anpin is filled, ba'oros shall Erik Anpin, with the lights of Erik Anpin. V'dolchu raza desrin yudin the yetzer desar tzura go tzura. So this is the secret of that concept of the two yuds. V'zecha b'sod hashtei yudim. Shall milit v'yetzer al romez the sod his lavshus, parts of Erik Anpin, besok parts of Zair Anpin, bebechinat tsar tzura besok tzura, and it is the aspect of making a form within a form. Tsar tzura makes a form besok tzura. Tikuna the shma, so the tikuna the shma shlim hashayim elokim shahare hatikun hanikra shem shalem. So there is now. He introduced this idea of the Shem Shalom. So it's kind of hanging there to tell us about the fact that the two are formed up together. So he says, Shuhu Hatikon Nikra Shem Shalom, Besod Shnei Shemos Avaya Elokim Yachad. And that's what the name Shem Shalom, Shlim is, the complete name, is these two together. When they're together, and let's go on. Now we said this, we met this partsif, and we had this double yud, and we now have the name of Elokim, which is, both of them are signaling to the fact that Erik Anpin is inside of Zair Anpin, the Hailu Shetzad Shnei Partsuf, Shetzar Shnei Partsufim, that they form two Partsufim, Erik Anpin, Zair Anpin, Bibechinas Tsuras Besok Tsura, which is the concept of a form inside of another form. Adaim Yesh L'Shol, but there's still a question hanging. Of Ama is Kalilu. Al Ezer B'Shnei Partsufim Elu, Amr Chapasach Shenitlo Besod Tsura Besok Tsura. So which one do we mean? That we have a form inside of another form. Because when you have two partsufim that are incorporated one with the other, especially in this idea of a form inside of a form, and each one of them really, that's what he's saying. Let me read it again. I'll call echad ve'echad, each one of them. So we're talking about the two anpin, Zer and Erich. Call echad ve'echad shayach lomar. Each one of them, you could say about each one of them, shehu besod tzura besok tzura. Ve'elach b'pasuk b'daber rak al echad bechem. But the pasuk is only talking about one of them becomes a tzura. So I get, it sounds like his question is it that Erik Anpin is inside of Zair Anpin, or is it that Zair Anpin is inside of Erik Anpin, which probably is also true. So in a different way. V'im came yesh l'shor be'ezeh b'shnechem midaber pasuk. So which one is the pasuk talking about? Ameshe b'diyuk nachi lo dod ikre adam dekol dachar v'nok. He says, what is that? Shah pasuk v'daber b'Zair Anpin. The pasuk is really talking about Zair Anpin. And atzel kaduma satzurach elyona Erik Anpin, which is he is formed up with the same, with the similar to the same surah of Erik Anpin. V'nikra Adam is also called Adam, makolo zachar v'nok. But this Adam, he's saying, is a different kind of way of looking at it. That this refers to the parts of Zair Anpin and Malchut. Zachar v'nuk b'vora v'al dor kasiv. On this it's written like this: Esa Adam the kolol dachar v'nuk. When it says Es Adam, that phrase Esa Adam, he says it means to say that Adam was created Zachar v'nuk. And this is the reason why the pasuk says this name Adam. Kamosha Kosef Esa Adam. So, for example, it writes like that. Vishim bedaber kan bezer anpin hanikra Adam, because here we're talking about Zair Anpin, who's called Adam. Vishin nichlo im hanukva, and that's the reason why, because each one of them has a hiskalalus. So he said nichlo im hanukva is because Zair Anpin, when that man is also female. The Gemosha ne'emach b'zalcha v'nekeva. So he said v'bara. He created zalcha v'nok. V'yikra shemam Adam, and their names, it's plural, are called Adam. Shehu Zair Anpin the Atzilus, and here we're talking about the Zair Anpin of Atzilus. Nimsa shal parts of Zair Anpin. So now here we're talking about the parts of the Zair Anpin. Hapasuk kan v'yetzer havaya Elokim. So now it sounds better that Havaya Zair Anpin and Elokim is going to be the Nukva. Shehu Shem Male, it's also complete name. Hakolu Shnei Partsufim, meaning that it has two partsufim. One partsuf is Erik Anpin, Zair Anpin, B'bechinat Surah B'sok Surah. That works. It's an aspect of one form inside of a Naktafi. Shepinimi is parts of Zair Anpin, because the Pinimi of Zair Anpin, Ha-Nikra Elokim, Maluvish Bapart is clothed on the parts of Erik Anpin, which is the same thing that Erik Anpin is inside of it. Ha-Nikra Havaya, who's called Havaya. V'var od b'loshen pasuk, but in the pasuk you also have this es, the word es. Kimasha Omer es Adam. La apaka v'lomiske, in order to bring it out, and it's sufficient, let's say dinah, the nafik b'nei, the dinim that come out from it. Now what does that mean? The Pirish says, Bal lahotziv oval rabos, mini Minei hatoldos yotza min Adam. So here we're really counting, and the hotzi the rabos mini hatoldos yotza min Adam, and I guess it means and to multiply the different kinds of generations that come out from this man who's Zair Anpin, and then is also said the nukva detzilus and his female aspect, because Zair Anpin is male, doesn't give birth. Kamo partsufi holomos bri yitzir v'nesia, for example, those come out from Zachar v'Nog. Neshamas tzaddikim, or let's say, for example, the Neshamas tzaddikim, the V'nei Yisrael, and also the Jewish people. Shagam heim yatzach b'Zair v'Nog. They also come from Zair Anpin and his nukva. The Ratzila b'tzuras parts of Adam b'bechinas Zachar v'Nog, and so they also come out in that aspect which is male and female. Kamo kain and Neshamas yatzu zugos. So therefore, the Neshamas of people, they come out also paired. Zacharim v'nekevos, males and females, besod Adam. Now, he hasn't really hit the nail exactly the way that I thought he was going to do, but we do understand that there's a possibility not a possibility, that we're talking about two different partsufim, and they both could be called Havaya Elokem. Vamba bechem shekapasuk sham, so we said, as the pasuk goes on over there, Afar min Adama. I think this is getting a little deeper. So he said, "Kfelus lashen ubal." This is a afar min Adama. So afar is the dust of the earth, of the ground. So you have two different words for the same idea. So this is to give you a reference. L'ramos diukna bego diukna, that you have an image inside of an image. In other words, you have dirt, you have earth, that could be broken down into dust. Shahoy Zair Anpin Surah B'Sok Surah. Zair Anpin is the formation of one form inside of another. Ki Afar Kuhat Surah Hapanim is the concept of Afar. Let's think about this metaphor. Is really the inner form. Shabasocha Adama, which is inside of the earth. Hatsura Hachitzani, which is the outside. So he wants to give you the idea of Panemius Chitzonius here. As the pasuk goes on, and he says, then he blew into its nostrils a neshama chaim, some panemius. Pirusho shama'atzel hiknes besok Zair Anpin. He brought inside of Zair Anpin neshamas chaim, nishmas chaim, this neshama that brings life. Bebechinas Bina, Chanikras Chaim, which is this the aspect of Bina, which is called Chaim, in other words, the Nai of Ima coming into Zair Anpin. Ki Zair Anpin, Hu Bebechinas Ruach. He's just a Ruach, he's only 6 Viros. But inside of that Ruach is a Neshama. So he says, that go back to this again. It's the Tabarka, the Gushpanka, go, one inside the next. In other words, it's the seal inside of the ring. Parts of Eric Anpin Hanikra Tabarka, the Gushpanka, he's called the original, so he's the signet ring. Besod Chosem Atabaz Kamalael, as we described that metaphor before. Hu lifnai v'lifnim, it's in the most penimistic part. Kig Eric Anpin Shuchuba Bechinas Yechida, because Eric Anpin understands just the concept of Yechida. It's the greatest possible light. Mislavish, and that Yechida, now here he's getting off on me a little bit because I thought Yechida was a makif, and it was not mislavish in anything, but here he says, but that aspect of Eric Anpin is mislavish, beso hachaya v'neshama. So in other words, these oros are one inside of the next as well. V'haneshama, then mislavish beso Zair Anpin. So here we have these levels of light. V'shov v'kol da'alama. So why do you have to go through all of this? V'kol zecha should be ironacha beso Zair Anpin. Lama hoyu. Why was it? Kolomer lama hoyu tzaraka ma'atzel la'elyon. Why do you have to do it like this? Laha'atzel as surah's parts of Zair Anpin, in order to bring out the surah parts of Zair Anpin, but surah's parts of Elyon in the same image as the upper parts of Shel Eric Anpin. Why do you need to do that? The Vasod Surah, Basod Surah, and it's also the concept of a form inside of a fine. Why do we have to go like that? Uvasod Shem Mole, and also the concept of Shem Elokim, Sheniz Bar, as we talked about it. Umeshiv, and this is the answer. Begin the Ishtalma, what's the word again? The Ishtalpa, V'la'aylo, V'la'aylo They the Hamshik Milamala, in order to bring down from up above, L'hakte Besoch Penimios Zair Anpin, and bring it inside of Zair Anpin, Sasin Distima Ilah. As Neshama Chasosemes Astuma, this closed up Neshama, Bebechinas Eric Anpin, which is coming from Eric Anpin, which understand what you're saying like that is one thing inside of the next. It's Yechida inside of Chaya, Chaya inside of Neshama going into Zair Anpin. Shuhu Sasim Bekal Sasim is closed of all closings. So this is the upper idea. Zair Eric Anpin is Yechida. Al sofa the call steaming. So the idea is to bring this Yechida, this light of the Ein Sof, into the lower worlds. Ad Sof shall call him Madregos, until it reaches the end of all the different Madregos. Shall Nefesh Ruach Neshama Chayin Yechida, until it reaches Nefesh. Shechem Madregos Nefesh. Asher Begam Sham Mislavish Nishmas Eric Anpin, because you see that Eric Anpin is also here with us. But it's so close we don't even know it. It's closed more than all clothings. Nishmasecha the Kol Chai. It is actually the life force of all living things. The Eila Besata up above, down below, Talian Mehachul Nishmasa. All of the life that we have really depends on this neshama. But Nishmas Eric Anpin, he neshama shekol chai partsufim b'yona v'tachtonim. All of the partsufim tuluyim ba'osach of the neshama really have to have all their existence depends on Eric Anpin. And they are sustained by Eric Anpin. Miskaimim al yoda ki or ein sof baruchu meir bepenimis nishmas parts of Eric Anpin. That inside of the parts of Eric Anpin there is a deeper light, the light of the Ein Sof itself. Of a nishmas Eric Anpin mislavish besoch kol parts of Atzilus, and then it comes along and it's mislavish in all other parts of Atzilus. L'kacha etzel ha'ma'atzel as Zair Anpin. So therefore, that's the reason why you see that the Ein Sof Baruch Hu brought out this Zair Anpin, Betsurah's parts of Elyon, and he's in the form of the upper parts of Shel Eric Anpin. Uvesod Surah Besok Surah. That once again is that it's the forming surah from the Penimius that causes the surah, the outside surah, to look like it. Uvesod Shem Malech Havaya Elokim, and it also comes to these two. Hakol Zair Anpin ve'Eric Anpin, to show how they're formed. Ki ha'or Ein Sof Baruch Hu shebepenimius Eric Anpin, which is Penimi to Eric Anpin. Hu Hanushama HaMachayim Mekayim as Zair Anpin. Actually, it is the Ein Sof Baruch Hu himself, Kavayochel, that is actually bringing life into Zair Anpin and all the other parts of Gamor. Zair Anpin Hu Levush, the Erik Anpin, it's a Levush, the Erik Anpin, Adkan. Thank you so much for giving me that extra time so we could finish this up. Thank you for learning with me today. Kol Tuv.